DJ, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. You?
Can't complain. Had a good session earlier today.
So,
Apparently the sun is back. It's been very cold, and I am now
thankfully,
pink.
thankfully,
So yeah, you could say that. Maybe.
yeah.
Anyways,
Please, yeah.
let's do. This will be for those listening a much more informal one. I had physicists on and people before talking about their books and whatever. DJ and I are not so formal to talk about our books. But anyways, DJ, do a quick intro for the people, kind of who you are and what you do, what you've been up to recently. We'll
Yes.
do the question from the last guest, and then we'll just go from there.
Sure. So yeah, my name is Daniel Jackson. I work currently as a cloud engineer slash like network administrator for the Department of Behavioral Health in DC. Um, and what I also am the assistant coach for Arlington SA players coach. So yeah, just a little rundown of what I do, both like on and off the field.
So the question from the last guest, this was very funny. I chuckled after I got the question because I knew it was you, and I was like, "This is not in line with what we're talking about."
Oh my God.
What is the most existential threat to humans?
Humans themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Most definitely. Like we are the cause of a lot of the things that are happening right now. So, I mean, as long as we exist, we are our own worst enemy.
yeah. That's for
Most
sure.
definitely. Yeah.
Maybe aliens
I
or
mean,
people like Mert specifically.
yeah, most definitely. It's Mert, actually. That's my answer. It's Mert for sure. Mert, if you're listening, it's you.
For those listening that have no idea who Mert is, he's our goalkeeper for our team, and he is insane. And we'll just leave it there.
We love him though. We
Um,
love him though. We love
we
him.
do, we do. Okay, so let's run through kind of a little bit of your backstory. So for those listening, DJ played professionally soccer for what, 10 years?
Yeah, close to 10 years, yeah.
10 years.
Mhm.
Um, and so um, I wanted to get to document kind of your story, some of the trials, tribulations that you found, like some of the hardships, people kind of wanting to give up, say like, oh, they really want to play pro, but they don't understand that you got to do like what it actually takes to really make a career out of it. Like for myself, I've been on a couple trials with pro teams and then been like, I don't know. I like my other life and I'm not willing to give it up. So kind of like what it entails and that sort of thing. So do you played in college and then what was the process like for you to get into the pro kind of ranks? Because I would imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but once you sign the first pro contract and you've had some games under your belt, then it becomes a lot easier because you have that on your resume. So like breaking in the door, what is that like?
Yeah, sure. So my particular story, obviously every story is different, but my particular story, so there was a combine that back when I, first started playing, it was called the InfoSport Combine, and it was ran in Bradenton, Florida, which it was during the week of the MLS Combine, but like a few days before. And what they did, well, how I got to them is they sent out like informal invites to players who were all conference. So like a lot of people in my conference, which is the SAC conference. I went to Coker College, now Coker University. Um, and so yeah, they sent informal invites to people to come down, and I think it was like a $250 registration. You go down there for 3 days and train and play. And there were somewhat a few coaches from the coaches that go to the MLS Combine there, USL Championship, and also a few MLS coaches as well that ran it. So yeah, that's how I kind of got my opportunity. I went down there, went through the trial, did really well. We ended up so it was like a 3 day process. The first 2 days they split us up in, pretty sure it was like 100. It was 120 people there, and they split us up into like 11 teams of like 14 or 15 players, something like that. I don't know the math right now, but so each coach had a team, and so each day we did kind of like some drills. We played small sided and stuff like that. And the last day we played 11s. And what they did was that the players that they liked, they put them on kind of like a all-star team or whatever players, and we ended up playing the U.S. men's national U23 team. And yeah, so did well there, and I started getting contract offers essentially like right after, as soon as I was like leaving the combine. Obviously they had our information and stuff like that, but actually that's how my agent saw me. Inamar, shout out to him. So yeah, so that's kind of how my process went, and I ended up like kind of sitting on those offers for a minute until the drafts happened, and I got drafted, and it's something that, I never thought would have been possible for me. I was kind of already weighing in my options as far as the contracts that was presented to me, but that was a cool experience. So yeah, that's kind of how my story went, and I started from there. Got drafted to Real Salt Lake, and yeah, like you said, as soon as get your foot in the door, and if you are doing the right things, and the coaches see that you're putting in the effort and you play well, then the contracts continue to come depending on what coaches think that you're fit to a team is.
Do you think that your combine performance contributed to the draft selection, or do you think that they were already gonna take you? Well, so I'll
Yeah.
I'll I'll leave that one there,
Yeah.
and then I'll say like, because there's lots of, even like I'm still getting ads for like, oh, like OPM combine, or what is
Mhm.
OPSM combine or
OPS.
whatever, yeah, and then like different combines that are out there, and I think a lot of people think that they're just kind of money grabs, which may be true to some extent. But like if you're going to go to one, what do you recommend in terms of like how to best showcase yourself and then how to get the most out of it? Because there's a lot of people I think just like they think they'll show up and then because they're there, or like they don't understand how it works. And like me included, I went to one and I was like, okay, I've done super well, and then just heard zip from anything.
Right.
And even if like to me, it's like you can gauge the players around you and whatever. It's like, okay, I've done well in my position. I'm probably the best, maybe one or two or three that are here. Like something maybe, or like an invite to train for, or like to go on trial for a week, or like anything, just like crickets. So like
Yeah.
how do you make the most out of those opportunities, or like what do you recommend for that, for players looking to do that?
Most definitely. I think the first thing is just like belief in yourself, and playing within yourself. And what I mean when I say that is essentially like, every player has their own player profile and like the things that they're good at. Like the one or two things that you are good at. I would say that a lot of the coaches, when it comes to combines and especially at the pro level, a lot of the players are very, they're very skilled, a lot have a lot of the same skill sets, but there are, certain things that you do. Each player is unique, and they have their own abilities. And I would say that, if you know your abilities and, your top, maybe one or two things that, you do really well, I would say work on those things, because the coaches, again, like I said, there's a lot of talented players out there, but they look at consistency. So if it's something that you can do really well consistently, they see that, and they're also thinking about their entire, system and how they want to play. So they, and that's why I love the game too, because it's such an opinionated game, and like you could be the worst player for one coach, and one coach he thinks you're like God's gift. So what I would say though is that, a lot of players go in there and try to just be flashy and try to do like all this extra stuff. But again, it's the coaches look at more consistency. Can I rely on DJ to beat his player down the line and put in a cross in every single time, every time he gets the ball? Is he consistent in that? Is that something I can rely on? So when I put him in the game, I know what he's going to do and I can trust that. So yeah, so I think that's really important for players and their mindset. And I have, I've been to a few combines even before that one where, you see the players, very skillful players, but they kind of get caught up in, themselves and their talent or whatever. And it's not just about that. It's about the whole thing. It's about the mental. And honestly, it is about the mental more than the physical, because yes, you can be a good player, you can take guys on, you can dribble through guys, but also like you need to be able to apply that within a structure of a team. So yeah, I think it's really important, just the whole mental side of it. And also too, like, it's pressure, right? So like it's a high pressured environment. Everyone's trying to show their best. So I think just kind of, just accepting that pressure and understanding that, it is going to be what it is. And if you prepare well for it, you just kind of like leave it up to chance, and in your journey. So I think that's a few things that I can say as far as just like when you are going to those combines, just like think about those things and understand that, you're not the only player there. And also, you get to stand out by just being consistent in what you are. your abilities and what you're capable of doing on the field.
Let me throw the maybe it's not even devil's advocate, but like the well, I've got this guy on my team and he never passes me the ball and this other guy's never covering that guy, so I'm like being pulled out of position and like all the things that go into that where it's like, yeah, maybe you could put in a bad situation or your 11's team is like not the best and you don't have a lot of the ball, so you can't show. So like what sort of things would then be like in my head, it'd be like, are you still making the runs? Are you positionally, are you still good? Are you still communicating with your teammates? Are you still like those sorts of things? So like what in for if you were talking to a player and they're like, but I went to one and it just didn't work. Like what's the response then to that?
I mean, you pretty much said it yourself. Are you consistent in what you're in your actions in the game? I would say like to all the things that you said is, communication's huge. If they, know that you are someone who has the mental capacity and the mental awareness in the game in certain situations to communicate with your players and just your also just like game IQ. That's something that's really big that people just like I think overlook. But it's extremely important because that's something that again, like I said before, you can be an extremely talented player, but if you're not able to understand the game and depending on like what the coach wants or the kind of game plan he wants to push out, then you are essentially useless. To be honest, like there again, I play with so many players over the years that are just completely talented players can put a ball anywhere, but you put them on a team and they're I would say they're a bit a detriment to the team because they're more about self and what they want to do rather than kind of like what your job is within the team structure. And that's why honestly that's why I love the game anyway, because it's such a complex game, and it's selfless. Like it's being selfless is understanding your role on a team. That's something that I had to learn, especially in my earlier years, because as you're starting to become pro and like being there, you're like, yeah, I belong here because of X, Y, and Z. But again, that's understanding that yes, you are a good player, but you have to fit in a system and it has to work like that. So just kind of like taking yourself out and understanding that everyone has a role to play, regardless of how big or small, to for the advancement of the team.
Yeah. Talk to the balance of that as you break into a pro team, right? Because if you're a young player or a new player into the you don't want to kind of be like you said and not understand your role in the team and all these other things. But at the same time, especially as an attacker, your job is to go make stuff happen. And so like you have to walk that line of like, yeah, I'm gonna break system here because of this opportunity, and then also I'm still gonna do my job pressing or whatever well, like whatever the case is, there's a balance there of like making the unexpected happen, even as a defender, right? Like,
Mhm.
for me, in my example, if I can take one, two touches, step into midfield, and then play a through ball, like maybe we score. And maybe the safe option would have been I take one touch and I pass to the six, and then I open up or whatever. So like there's both where so talk to the balance of that, like how you navigated that going into especially an MLS environment, your first kind of first impressions of the MLS environment versus college, adjustment period, things like that, both mentally, physically, and then also you got guys that are older in their careers, they got family, kids, whatever, like you stepping into a locker room where it's not all college guys anymore, like all that whole thing. So you get drafted and
Yeah.
then
So yeah, we had preseason at Casa Grande in Arizona. I remember coming in there too because like it was literally the year after they had just went to the MLS Cup final. They lost to Kansas City, but this is a team full of just like complete ballers, honestly. And like I watched out, I followed the MLS very heavily then, and just like players that I literally had saw a month ago playing the MLS Cup final, and I'm sitting there like eating meals with them and like going out to play. And for me, I will say that it was a huge shift, and I would say that I was still developing as a player even then. I don't think I fully felt my I guess like truest self or like best version of myself within maybe like 4 or 5 years of my career, like within 4 or 5 years of my career. So I was still in a development phase, but when I was there, I think I was more kind of like I wouldn't say starstruck or whatever, but it was just kind of like it was something that I had been dreaming of. to do. And so I was very I don't think I put my best, foot forward because I was just like, what's going on? You know what I mean? It was a very high level that we played. That the jump it was a very high jump, but um, I will say that like, I did go in and do my best, but I did slowly throughout the preseason. So I finished up with them for 2 weeks, and then I ended up getting called in by Chicago Fire, and I was with them for a couple weeks, and then finally I was in Orlando City um, when they were USL. I think those were the last year that they were in the USL, and then the next year they went to MLS, or 2 years after. So I had, I had a mixture of experiences of different levels. I would say between like the Chicago Fire and the and Real Salt Lake, but the Orlando City team again was a very good team. They had just won, I think, back-to-back USL championships. So the level was a huge jump for me, but I think that it took me some time to adjust, and it's normal. But I think usually the better players are more able to adjust and adapt quicker than others, and that necessarily doesn't mean that you have a higher ceiling. It just means you're able to you might have been at a more mature spot in your career, or maybe the previous um, situation or college or whatever structure you're in before better prepared you for where you were, depending on the type of player you are. So I think it's just kind of like understanding that shift. And I think back then I didn't really think about like, oh, this is like a huge shift. I was just more so just like relishing in the moment more.
Talk to the balancing piece of going within the team and like making stuff happen, especially because you're an attacker. So like, where is this even crossing your mind? Or like you have coaches telling you, yeah, like I want you to take that guy one on one and have a shot, or where where are you at within your development in terms of like, well, I guess maybe so talk to the balancing piece of like fitting in, but also like you need to showcase yourself to some extent. You're playing for a contract, um, and playing time and all these things.
Of
But also
course.
like, what's your kind of welcome to the MLS moment? Was it or the pro scene moment? Is it like one specific game? Are you in training and you see like I was talking to CJ Sapong, and he was like, yeah, when he went to Chicago Fire and he was training with Schweinsteiger, and he was like, just dude, like, or his first national team camp, things like that. Do you have like a moment like that? So I guess
I do.
there's two questions in there, but anyways,
I do like so as far as like the balancing piece, I think that like again, like I said before, we all have our, special abilities. Like so back then I was extremely quick. So just overemphasizing that piece, like making runs in behind, and just like showcase like again, each player has their own unique gifts and what they bring to the table, and like the best of their ability. You know what I mean? So what I did and what I think people should do is just continue to work at that. How can you fine tune that ability within the structure that you're in? And I would say that like my welcome to MLS moment was like in preseason, and playing with Kyle Beckerman. He was that was when he was playing for Real Salt Lake. But also, I remember being in this rondo the first day, and I literally like they were passing the ball so quickly, and I was like turning around, the ball's already behind me, and I was like, whoa, like this is this is different. This doesn't happen. So yeah, I think that I definitely remember those moments, and I was like, all right, like I need to do something, because this is whatever I'm doing or wherever my headspace at is not it's not it. So
is this like World Cup Kyle Beckerman, like 2014 time frame?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so when he's at the peak and yeah. I remember
Yes.
watching the national team play and being like, he should be starting.
Yeah.
Um,
Most definitely.
yeah, he's a baller for sure.
Mhm.
What's he like in the changing room and like just to be around?
So I didn't necessarily have like personal interactions with him, but like everyone there was extremely welcoming. It felt like family. They all, obviously when you are part of a part of an organization, and there's a lot of continuity as far as like the rosters and stuff like that. Guys develop relationships, and not only just on the field but off the field. So I felt like Real Salt Lake is definitely an organization that's built on family, and that's definitely something I felt when I was in there. And I didn't feel like I was out of place. They always made me feel welcome, and so I really appreciated that when I was there.
Where'd you end up that first season then?
Yeah, the first season I ended up with the Carolina Railhawks, which is was the old NASL league, and that they're located in Cary, North Carolina.
So what's it like? Okay, so Real Salt Lake, you're there, so they draft you.
Hmm.
Um, in other sports, your draft pick comes with a contract offer generally.
Hmm.
So obviously MLS kind of in that time frame was not in the same sort of it's not the same as NBA or whatever or
Right.
NFL or any of these things. So what is like they draft you and then what's the agreement then like on draft day?
It's not necessarily agreement. It's essentially like when you I was in the fourth round, so I think in those rounds it's essentially just like an invitation to come um in preseason. So it's not a guaranteed contract. It's just again just kind of like the first rights to a player.
Okay. And so then how you end up with Chicago. So the 2 weeks go by and they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, sorry, we've already got strikers or whatever."
Right.
And
Mhm.
then so okay, so then Chicago comes calling and where is the
Yeah.
at this point like at this point where do you still have the contracts from before or like are you kind of like I don't know what I'm gonna do now?
So yeah, so at that time, my agent was kind of like handling things more so for me. I remember getting off the plane um from when we had got back to Real Salt Lake and I left from Salt Lake back home to DC. And literally, as soon as I got off the phone, I got a call from Chicago Fire and like, hey, we want you um, in like a couple days. So I ended up like going home for a moment and then literally getting back on the plane, I think like 2 days later and going down to IMG Academy or the IMG Academy. And usually every year, there's like maybe like 8 or 10 teams 8 to 10 teams that go down there and play like a mini preseason tournament, and that's what I went down there to train and play with them for.
Got you. So then, okay, so you do that, and then at this point, where are you in your own head about MLS versus USL versus like, are you at all considering like, okay, maybe I play USL, like I'm 0 for 2 with MLS teams, like maybe I try and play USL 2 or not USL 2, USL, and then get back up to it, or are you still like, nope, top level, I want to like where are you at like
Yeah,
mentally? Because
mentally.
you've got two rejections at this point, and so like as a player that can be tough, obviously. But I mean that's something we deal with all the time. So
Yeah. So I think for me at that point, I think that I, was able to showcase my abilities, and I don't think I was necessarily worried because I think it would be different if I wasn't getting, if I didn't get opportunities, but I had gotten opportunities. So Orlando City was also down at IMG, and that's how I actually played against them in preseason and scored against them actually. And after Chicago, kind of like said thanks for but no thanks. I ended up going to preseason with them and then going down to Florida to Orlando and kind of like finishing out their preseason with them. And things didn't work out with them as well. But these other contracts that I had, I believe at that time that were still on the table. But they weren't definite. I don't think they were like, yeah, they weren't kind of like waiting around, but they were still like, yeah, you can come and, see what happens. And I think um, after my Orlando City trial, I called up um, Carolina. It was between the Carolina Railhawks and also the Charleston Battery at the time, and I ended up choosing the Carolina Railhawks, and it was a good situation. I think honestly that team is what helped me develop the most, like moving forward as a player.
okay, so walk through that season, that first your first pro season, things that you learned, things that maybe you wish you that you knew, um, experiences as a player from like once you get into the situation, it being different from something that you've experienced before, like your whole and you like you don't have class anymore, you don't have homework,
Yeah.
you don't have to tell your teacher that you're gonna miss class because you're going to wherever.
Mhm.
What's the now that you're fully in, you signed the contract, now like what's it like? Did it take you a while to settle into a rhythm kind of or like
Yeah, I
how did
think
it
it
go?
did. I think it did take me a little bit. I think the main thing for me was just like the consistency that you need to have, especially playing at that level to then play games. I think that's something I struggled with in the beginning. Um, and again, like I said, even going into that season, I was a bit raw as a player. I obviously had pace or whatever, but I don't think I had some of the assets that I had now. And so I definitely do think that that whole environment though was very I was able to develop a lot more than I think I could have anywhere else. The coaching staff were amazing, and I was able to, you know, um, I think the pressure helped too because we had older guys and veterans who had played at top levels too, and so obviously they the demands were high, and I think that kind of helped me develop as a player even more throughout the season.
What are some of the things that you picked up, like types of finishes or little movements or like some of the nuances that you hadn't been exposed? Like if there's a young striker listening um, that you could give maybe advice or like pointers to, like what are some of the things that you picked up that first season that you were like, oh, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that.
I think understanding space and realizing I think more so in college since I did have more my advantage was my pace and I think I overused it sometimes to my detriment. I would take away my space a lot just like sprinting in areas that I didn't need to sprint in too early. So I think I definitely learned a lot that first season understanding space, understanding getting my first touch better. That was huge for me. Also just like yeah, just the overall understanding of the game and our coaching staffs were that they were great teachers and I think we had maybe like 4 or 5 guys in the coaching staff and they did a really good job not only teaching but even sometimes if you don't travel still we had coaches that would stay back with like the 12 or 13 guy or how many ever guys that were stayed back and we had training sessions and there were hard training sessions because obviously it's a long season and when these guys come back they might be tired and depending on our schedule some of the guys that didn't train will be in the 18 that plays the next game so you need to be ready to make a difference whenever you get an opportunity. So I think that was something that for me was kind of like I needed to understand and was different because I'd never been in that environment. Every team that I had been on previously, I was always, either starting or somewhat in the lineup. So that was an adjustment, but I think, yeah, they ran things well there and I learned a lot that first year.
Were you there for year two as well, or when did you start to bounce around more?
Literally that after that year.
Okay,
So I was
so
there.
so
Yeah.
walk through kind of like we don't have to go through every team, of course, but just like
Sure.
the every off season, it's like okay, new contract, new team, new city, new apartment, new like all the logistic. Like I hate moving, so like I but so new friends, new like you're starting over every summer, every year. Like does that take a toll, or like what's it like for you? Like do you like
So
to travel, or like
I think
how did that go?
I think for me, I think my career worked out the best it could have for me and where I was at that point in time. I think um like I would have never done anything different. I think that I enjoy traveling. That's something that I had never done before. I'm from a small town in Michigan, South Haven, and even throughout my college career, I jumped through a few college teams, so I had been used to that. You know what I mean? That was something that was never it was something that was never an issue for me at least. Like you said, you would hate that, but for me, I think that things worked out the best for me because I was able to travel, which is something I love, and then do what I love. So I don't think I necessarily had many I would say like reservations when if I didn't work if things didn't work out with the team because I knew that regardless of where I was I would be okay. And that's just the mindset I had when I was playing is that if this place is for me then they will they will reach out and give me another contract or extend the contract. If not then it's not the place for me. I can find somewhere else where I can make a difference and impact the team in whatever way I can.
Yeah, I think also like you didn't have kids,
Yeah, that's
so
huge too.
like
Yeah, no stability.
you don't
Yeah,
have the pressure of like
I didn't need stability or anything like that. I was
yeah.
kind of just like floating with the wind, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Did you have favorite moments of your travels, favorite places to be? Come in my head comes to mind is you were training with Orlando City and then you were back there for Arena. So how was that for well, I'll bake that into the question as well, the
Mhm.
transition into Arena versus outdoor or 11's normal, I don't, whatever. Um like the thought process of like, oh, I'm gonna try this thing. Was it the only one on the table, or like? So I guess I'll just like bake that in, but then also talk through some of the highlights of like the rest of the time that you were playing.
Yeah, most definitely. I think for me, that my favorite highlights, I guess, of just like traveling or whatever, had been definitely Tasmania. Such a beautiful like place. I had no idea like where it was. Like my agent was like, "Yeah, are you interested in going to Tasmania to play?" And I thought he meant like Tanzania, and I had to like Google search it, and I was like, "Wow, this is like paradise. Like, of course I want to go here." You know what I mean? I will say that moving there was a huge change. At the time, I had a girlfriend, and we had been dating for I think maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, and that was tough because it's completely different time zone. I think they're like 14 or 15 hours ahead or something insane. So they're in the future technically, and that was tough to just like be able to communicate with my family and things like that. But as far as the experience, like one of the best experience I've had definitely was living in Tasmania, and also after that, when I was in Finland, that was also a great experience as well. Just being able to experience other different cultures and in different ways of life, I think brings huge perspective to just your own personal life in general. And that's something that I'm forever grateful for, is to have those experiences while I'm doing something that I love.
And then the Arena, was that the only option, or did you want to try something new?
So yeah, so the arena football, the arena soccer came up. One of my friends was playing for the Orlando Seawolves. I don't think they exist anymore, but it was around the time, I think this is 2019, where like there was a lot of visa issues, and this team had a lot of very talented Brazilians on there, but they were I think there was like something happening with like the registration of players. So I went down there to play before my season in Tormenta in Georgia. But yeah, that experience was awesome. Like I definitely think arena soccer should get more notoriety, just for the simple fact that it's such a very interesting sport, or not interesting sport, but like it's completely different from playing 11s. Like it's in an arena, it's 5v5 with a keeper, and just like the movements and understanding spacing it's a lot different, and it's a lot quicker. So I think a lot of people like that because it's a more fast pace as opposed to 11s, wherein the ball may be swinging a little bit for the methodology of the game, and baiting other player or the other team out of position and stuff like that. But it was definitely fun. I enjoyed my season. I think I played half of my oh yeah, we played a full season, sorry, before I went to Georgia. But that was a great experience too. I actually thought about, after retiring from outdoor, to do that, but I had already kind of put things in place with my career. But I definitely would have done that, and if there was a team around here, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, Arena is so much fun. I love it. I
It's so fun.
played a couple seasons in like one of their MASL's like spin-offs or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so much fun. The game format is fun. And you can
Mhm.
actually get people to come watch. It's like
Yeah.
nobody ever comes to watch
Mhm.
11 like fourth division US
Right.
11s, but like you can get people to come watch
Yeah, it's
Arena.
indoors. You got concessions, and then like I always enjoyed like the player announcements, because it felt like I was in like high school basketball again when they do the player
Yes, yeah,
announcements.
yeah.
Like, number 11.
Yeah, they've got it. They
Yeah,
like
so
turn the
yeah,
lights off,
it's so
smoke
cool. Yeah,
machines,
yeah,
turn the
it's
lights off,
awesome.
smoke machines, all sorts. Um, the when you were abroad, what was the differences in, or were there big differences in coaching or style of football or players or routine, or was it just like at the end of the day, footy's footy?
Yeah, I think for me, at the end of the day, footy was footy. I think before going on over there, I thought there may have been a difference between like maybe the level, but these guys, like some of these guys that I played with, could definitely play like anywhere here. There's definitely a lot of talent out there, and I think I was a bit naive when I first got there, because I think at that point I had played for that was in 2018. So I had been playing for at least like 4 years. So I'm kind of like, well into my career and, had traveled a little bit. And so that year I was like, yeah, I come here and maybe I should be one of the best players, but there's some phenomenal players over there, especially in Tasmania. And there's talent everywhere, but especially there.
Fair enough. Okay, so you get towards the end of your kind of you're in Georgia, you're playing arena. Where's the decision coming from to retire? Was it time in your head to kind of settle down and find a place? Was it an injury or like and then how was the adjustment of going from playing professional soccer to now you're doing in software and IT and stuff?
Yeah.
Um, the routine's completely different. Everything that you've been working for the last your entire life is now kind of not really happening. I think me speaking personally to you as a friend, I think that what where you're at now is a good transition piece. Like it helps for sure. But like talk through the thought process, the kind of well, I guess your adjustment, like
Yeah.
the end when you knew it was time to hang it up from that perspective, and then kind of how you transitioned.
Yeah, definitely. I think my, retirement was more out of circumstance. So the last team I played for was actually Chattanooga in 2021. But COVID did it did a huge number on just like the US. I felt it did a huge number on the US soccer like community. A lot of teams that had been like starting to gain traction or starting their organizations, or there were a lot of teams at that point that were kind of like in their beginning stages, and COVID really did a number because a lot of these teams rely on merchandise, ticket sales, and things like that, and when you're not getting that residual back, that creates a lot of financial problems, and these teams are folding again, and so that creates a lot of saturation in the market, in the players market. And I think at that point, I was 31 at the time, and I was just kind of like, is it worth it to continue to still strive to play this game, or is it time to start looking at other options? And I think at that point, when I started to weigh those options, and the options of retiring were better than staying, I think that's when I made that point to switch and start focusing more on kind of like my professional life outside of soccer. um but I will say, like, it's tough. It is tough. It's essentially, soccer was something that I've always done, and always something that was a part of my life at a very high level. So going from doing that every single day to now, it's a few times a week, but it's still a huge switch because I was going to training and then like would have the day to just like hang out with the boys, or like I would work on my certifications or doing these things. And now I have a full schedule working like a 9 to 5, stuff like that. So it was tough. Like I went through a rough period a little bit. But I think I kind of went, immersed myself in what I was doing, and that helped a bit. I also think that at that time, and a lot of players get that, especially when you love the game so much, you kind of like you create an identity out of it, right? So it's not just Daniel Jackson, it's Daniel Jackson, the soccer player. You know what I mean? And I think I not as much as others, but I kind of define myself as that. And then when you take that away, it's like you're taking part of yourself away. So that was kind of tough to adjust to. But at the end of the day, like, especially going through life, I have great family and great friends that kind of ground you and make sure that you are under help you understand that you are more than that. And I think that that's very important in life. And unfortunately, soccer is not something that you could play for the rest of your life. It's not like entertainment where if you were a singer or something like that, you could make a living out of that for the rest of your life. There's only like a small window for that. And I think that's a beauty in it, though, right? Because every I think every moment I don't necessarily have any regrets of all the places that I went, because there was an experience in that and I relished in it. Like I took every experience for what it was. And it's made me who I was today. And through that, I've met some amazing people that I'm still in contact with to this day. And so, um, I think the main thing I would say for like younger players, especially if they're starting their professional careers, is first just don't allow the game to identify who you are. You are someone outside of that. Number one, number two, that just focus. You can focus, and you usually most people have a lot of time outside of the game, and use that time to kind of like focus on other things that and that you enjoy and make you happy. And I think that once that time comes for you to retire, I think it'll be an easier transition because you're also still doing you were doing these things while you were playing.
Mm, that's a good answer. Speaking of professionals that were focusing on things other than footy, apparently, according to the news, uh, Mr. Rashford left your team, United. And as I pull up the table, you guys are currently sitting in 15th place, having almost lost to Everton. And as I go through this, I can't really speak too much as my team, Dortmund, also are not doing so hot, although we did win 6-0 yesterday.
Yeah.
So that
Congrats.
that was nice. I haven't watched the highlights,
At
which
least you guys are
maybe,
scoring goals.
well, before that game we were not. So there's that. So okay, so United, I saw a tweet today that said that Pogba met with Ruben Amorim
Mhm.
and they are looking at a 1 year, very low salary, bonus heavy contract. Um, is Pogba the answer to all of your problems? And before you
Well,
say who knows, but like I guess just generally give me your thoughts on the situation there.
yeah, so it's such a it's such a complex situation, honestly, with the team and like the decisions that have been made, prior to today and this year, honestly. But I think Pogba, everyone knows like he's an outstanding talent, outstanding player. I think that he gets a bad rap because of just his persona and just kind of like who he is outside of football. But I think that people don't really recognize how influential and how good he was when he was playing with United, because again, this is around the time where we were still kind of like on the downtrodden, and people were trying to find a scapegoat, and I think he was easiest because he was a personality. He was the most kind of out there. And now you see it with you know, Bruno now. People talk so much trash about him, but they forget his first like 3 seasons when he literally carried us. Like he carried us through those seasons. And I think that people don't understand that, being consistently that good is extremely difficult, especially at the level that they're playing. And Pogba, I don't mind it. I think that obviously after his doping charge was rescinded or whatever, he's has something to prove, and he hears people talking, and I think he will do well for us if that were to happen. I think he will be a good addition. I see him sitting in his system in the 3-4-3 system. I see him sitting as one of the eights, of course. I don't obviously, you don't know his fitness level, you don't know where he's at physically. I think he's like 29, 30 at this point. So he's a little bit older, a little bit more mature. So I think he's going to go in there, and I think he's going to make an impact. And obviously, you can't deny his quality, right? Like he, at his peak, he was one of the best, if not the best midfielder of his time, at the time,
Yeah.
especially around when they won the World Cup. So I don't mind it at all. And again, I think it's good. I think it may be a good fit because, like I said, he has something to prove. And obviously, Amarim has like he's trying to build something, right? And I think for me, Amram is like he's obviously like the new generation of coaches, and I think he's an extremely intelligent individual. Not only in just the way he articulates himself, but also how he's savvy with the media, and also just like his mentality. I've watched some videos of how he kind of like dissects the game and what he thinks, and I've watched a lot of his Porto highlights, and he won that first season with a bunch of like a lot of academy
Sporting,
products.
wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of academy guys, and also he rescinded like a few loan players, and he won the league with those guys. So obviously, it's a different level from the Portuguese leagues to the ML or to the Premier League. But I think he has a lot of I think he has a lot of good ideas, and people say the three back won't work, but I feel as though seeing how his teams played Porto in the Champions League, and like he beat Man City with Porto and then left and played with us, and we beat City again. So like he is someone who I look up to a lot as far as just his uh, tactical awareness, and I'm interested to see what he's able to produce next year because obviously this year is kind of a wash, and he's dealing with a lot of the things that Ten Hag dealt with. But I think
Yeah.
even more so. I think even more so because they knew he was implementing a new system. Like Ten Hag came in and he was kind of like implementing the same for in the back. So I think that's a easier transition for players to make. But at the end of the day, I think football is football, and regardless of what formation you are playing, there's still a certain like movements and cadence and like finding space that is it pertains to any formation that you play.
Yeah.
So I think that you can see glimpses in the games where you're like, oh, like I haven't seen that in a while. Like a lot of these players are actually thinking about passes and moving and stuff like that. Where as in like the few recent years, it feels like um it's a huge lull in possession and in the game in general. And then like the games that we do win, it's just like from individual brilliance, or like Bruno will just like have a moment, or like some player will just like, you know, there'll be an action and something will happen and it'll save us. So I think that especially when you're bringing in a new coach and a new system, you need to give it time. You need culture too. I think that's a huge thing as well, is that United's culture has been just like in the dumps for years, and it's something that's not, it's not built overnight. Sir Alex Ferguson, over 30 years of being able to build that type of culture, and that's why also he was so successful, is that everyone knew as soon as you got in, you had the academy products who went it into the first team, and they were able to take that culture that they had learned from the academy and just like it seamlessly worked for the first team, because that's all that they know. And it's going to take some time, but I do have some high faith in him. And people are like, oh yeah, he's going to get sacked. I don't think, I hope they don't sack him, because I think he is the guy for the job. And I'm obviously any United coach, I want them to be successful, but I think he is the guy because he not only understands the tactical part, but the other part, the mental part, that
Mm.
I feel like a lot of coaches miss. Like they want to have this, they want to play this way, they have a certain way, blah, 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 but there's also a certain culture you need to make in order for that to happen.
Mm. I'll make one slight correction. He coached at Sporting Lisbon, not Porto.
Yeah, did
It's
I say
like,
Porto? Did I
yeah,
say
you
Porto?
said Porto.
Oh, my bad.
You're good. You just don't want the Portuguese people coming after you,
Yeah,
bro. That'd be like
yeah.
saying he
Thank you,
coached at
thank you.
Arsenal instead.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, sorry guys.
what's your take on the whole? So like Anthony goes out on loan. He has two man of the match performances in his first two games with Real Betis, and then like you hear something like Sancho or I don't remember if it was Sancho.
It was Sancho. He said like freedom. Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
something about you can finally play free or whatever.
about?
And Sancho's not exactly balling out with Chelsea, but like that loan spell he had with us last season, he played super well.
Yeah.
Rashford has been very not great compared to what we would have expected of his trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maguire's been an interesting one. Onana's been an interesting one where he's got these moments, and then um, what's your take on this situation? Because to me, all that seems like kind of coach agnostic. Like it's been the same players for through, like Solskjaer to Ralph Rangnick um, to Amarin now, Ten Hag, and then who was I don't even remember Van Nistelrooy for like 5 games or whatever. But like it's been the same, even some of them back to like when Jose was there. Like it seems like to me that they need to clean house. And where I'm going with this is like Dortmund seems kind of similar. It's like I've been watching us play. Like yeah, we made the Champions League final last year, but like if you watched every game, it didn't look good. And
Mm-hmm.
even the league, and even the season before, when we were one missed penalty away from winning the league, Royce's second to last year, I think it was, or last year, um, it's like we were only that close because Bayern were so bad, and then it's like Bayern were so bad, and also we still didn't win.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, okay, well, we've had this coach and we've had that coach, and it's like I've seen reports at Dortmund that they're just gonna clean house, like everybody's gone. Like, so
So my
where are you on that with United? Because and for some reason on my Twitter it's filled with United, and I don't know why.
Mhm.
Maybe it's your fault. I don't
The
know.
talk of the town, man. We're always
Maybe
the talk of the town. And
maybe you talk about it and my phone hears it. I don't know.
yeah, so I think I think each situation is a bit different. I'll talk about Anthony, I'll talk about Sancho, and I'll talk about Rashford. So Anthony, I think, and this is similar to Sancho's situation. I think Anthony obviously is he's a very skilled player. He was, he played at Ajax, and obviously he was part of that Ajax team that did really well in the Champions League, and unfortunately lost to Tottenham. But honestly, seeing that team play, they were kind of like, it was like playing a video game. Like they made the right pass every single time. The timing was perfect, and honestly, I remember watching that Tottenham game, and they were, every time they built up, it looked like they had a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful to watch that type of football. When every player is just so in tune with like the tactics and space and understanding spacing and time and being able where to play the ball, and it was beautiful to watch. So with Anthony and Sancho, I think it more so comes with like Man United's like one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I think they've started to try to act like Real Madrid, where Real Madrid is a team where they usually buy the best players in the world, and they have some type of culture there and an aura of playing for Real Madrid, where they just you figure it out, you just work really hard, and they just figure out in those big moments. And United has always been a team where like we have an academy. You have academy players that come up and just they have so much passion and will run through a wall for the shirt. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that United over the past maybe like decade, I would say, are buying players who not necessarily are there because of the like the aura of like being at Old Trafford and playing at the Theater of Dreams. Like I don't think I've ever heard anyone say Theater of Dreams anymore, like for the past like 3 years, because the
Well, no, the
aura has
stadium is like
yeah,
falling
the aura
apart.
is has yeah, exactly. Well, that, but it was more than just the stadium though. It was just like being there. You know what I mean? It was a kind of like a folk tale of just like being teams would be scared to go to Old Trafford because they know that they were going to get smacked. And it was kind of like the players. There obviously there was a weight to wear the shirt, but they relished in it because they understood like how important it was, and they had the passion to play. And now we're buying players who not necessarily have any like connection or passion for the team. They're just there because they know they're about to get a lot of money. You know what I mean? And I think that Sancho and Anthony were those players. And obviously, there's a lot of pressure on the shirt, under the, wearing the shirt. I get that, and there's other issues going on with like the coaching and the higher ups. But at the end of the day, like there's a certain level of just effort and pride when you wear the shirt. I've never worn it, but like I can only imagine. You know what I mean? Like it's and that's what upsets me so much about Rashford is that like, bro, you literally went through the academy, had so many amazing moments through the team. And just like the way that I've seen his like performances, and you could tell in his like body language on the field and how he's just like laxed and whatever, and just like I don't know. People are saying like, oh, there's some stuff off the field, but I think it was more so of just like that, I understand the criticism of, if you're not doing well, if you're not performing, but for me, at least have the effort. And I think that was kind of like a slap in the face. I'm not, I don't live in Manchester, but I can only imagine those fans not feeling good that like the guy literally, I watched the highlights. I didn't watch the actual game, but I actually watched the first half of the game, but he wasn't playing. But yesterday, guy comes in and assists us twice and is like running like he's never run before. You know what I mean? And I think it's a huge slap in the face because this is a guy who people thought that was going to be the future, and he was supposed to represent the academy and the club in the old Manchester way because he had seen it. Like he went through the ranks and had been a part of that, and also you're making $350,000 a week. Like at the least you can do is like try your hardest. And I think that is my issue with him is just like whatever that has weighed him down at the club. I get that like the results haven't been there, but like still understand that you are at the highest level playing a sport that you love, and anyone would die to wear that. Any player that loves football would want to play there. So I don't know, that's a little, it leaves a little sour taste in my mouth with him when it comes to seeing him do well. Of course, like I want him to do well. He was like one of my favorite players when he was, and still is like one of my favorite players. His ability is amazing, but also it's just kind of like man, like you could be doing that here. Like show effort,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's twofold, kind of like between United buying players who don't necessarily have that passion for the club, and also just like the players that are here, just like the least you can do is effort. And the past few years, there's a few players also that you just can tell are just kind of like deflated, and it's unfortunate.
They look done with it. Like
Yeah,
from the standpoint of like
yeah.
they're like I don't want to be here anymore. And
Mhm.
there's a lot that goes into that where it's like some fans maybe well, I don't know. They're all different, of course, but like Sancho, when Sancho left the first time from Dortmund to go to United,
Mhm.
I was like, well, they're about to get in 2 years one of the best wingers in the world because that's how he was playing for us. Like
Right.
his last game for us, it was um the German Cup final against RB Leipzig. I think he scored once or twice and assisted once or twice, and like his decision making was good. He just looked so sharp. The finishing was good, like everything. And he goes to United, and I'm like, what did they just spend $90 million on for what? And then he comes back and
Goes back to in balls.
immediately and he's balling out in the Champions League again. It's like PSG puts man of the match
Mhm.
performance. Like we get into the final and he's balling against like he played pretty well against Real Madrid in the final. And
Yep.
I'm like, what is going on over there? Like it seems weird. It seems
Yeah.
strange from the standpoint of like, yeah, maybe there's some weight to the shirt, but like there's also weight to playing against Real Madrid in the Champions League final as well. It's like it's
Most
not
definitely.
and maybe Chelsea doesn't have the same weight of United, nor does Dortmund, but it's not like those are small clubs either.
Most definitely.
Um,
I think also too, these players are, you have a chip on your shoulder, right? Because you want to prove the team wrong. You're like, this is like when I was there, you guys didn't appreciate me or whatever, and then so I'm gonna go out and ball for this team, which I get it to a certain extent, but like you can do that here. Like you
but
can
the players
prove.
in there, but there's a reason why they haven't. No, that's what I'm getting at. Is like it's not that the player doesn't have any responsibility, but like
Mhm.
there's a consistent track record. Like Donny Van de Beek was in the Ajax team that you mentioned before,
Mhm.
right? He comes to and but his career is just nosedived after that. Like he was never the same. But when he was at Ajax, dude was balling, and I know that
Mhm.
Eredivisie is not the same as the Premier League, but like Champions League, he's performing in the Champions League at high levels, right?
Yeah.
Um, like let's see, okay, let me see if I can think of like one or two others off the top of my head. I don't
But I
know.
can, but
I
I,
can't
I
think of
can, I
one.
can attest to that and say that I think it also, why I think Amarim is the right guy is that a lot of the coaches that we've had, I don't think so. United is, it's different, right? So Ten Hag came from coaching a very young Ajax team, very good Ajax team, but I think there is a difference between coaching kids that you can mold
Hmm.
as opposed to coaching those kids, those same kids, and also grown men who are experienced and have won multiple things. And so for me, this is a bad take, but I think I was done after Ten Hag when he kind of like alienated Ronaldo. So I think Ronaldo is a player, obviously, like once generational talent, like everyone
Yeah.
knows, what he who he is and what he's done for the club. I think he is a player that you can use as a conduit to the dressing room. So even if the dressing room might not believe in like what you're trying to facilitate, you use Ronaldo as an example because Ronaldo is a player that always puts his best foot forward. He's always gonna, do the best for the team. Obviously, yeah, he has a little ego in himself, but to be honest, he's earned that. Like the man has like five
Oh,
Ballon
for
d'Ors.
sure.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's earned the right to have some type of like stature within a team, and not necessarily like basing the team around him, but like he's been through so much throughout his career and experienced so much, especially at the highest level, winning Champions Leagues, that this is someone that you can use. Like for me, I would have made him the captain and used him to kind of like, you need the leader in the locker. You need a leader in the locker room, someone that people look up to and listen to. And I think he could have done that, but instead he was kind of, I think the way Ten Hag coaches is he was just kind of like a disciplinarian, like it's going to be my way or the highway, which of course, like as a coach, yes, it is your way or the highway, but you can use the tools to your advantage. And for me, a good coach is you take what you have and you make the best out of it. And at that time, also Ronaldo, his first season, the guy was scoring goals left and right in the Champions League. Like so
Yeah.
many moments that he scored like last minute goals, and like you can't deny his like ability and what he means to a team when he's on the team. You know what I mean? And I think he was mismanaged a little bit. And although yes, I get the whole interview that he did, and it's kind of like a disrespectful to the club, but I think he felt disrespected, and so he felt like he needed to kind of like bring things to a light, for lack of a better term. But yeah, that whole situation, I was like, you have a coach where yes, you wanna like assert your not dominance, but like assert yourself as like you are the coach. It's I'm the one in control. No one's better. No one's higher than the team, of course. But again, use the extremely talented players that you have to your benefit. Not don't scapegoat them and make them out to be the problem. Which honestly, I never thought he was a problem. It was always for me. It was always Ten Hag because he was not able to coach incongruent see with the young players and also like established professionals, guys who were older and have won everything. And I think that was his biggest flaw, or his biggest like mistake when he was at United.
So what do you think is next then? So you guys signed Patrick Dorgu.
Mm,
I don't. I mean, I've seen like half of what I don't know anything about him really.
yeah, he's.
Um,
I think he's a quality player. I think it's something that you can build on, and I think that's what he's trying to do. I think he's bringing in players, and you'll probably see it during the summer too. He's bringing in younger players who you can kind of mold into the system that he wants to play, but are also used to the system that he plays. If that makes
do you
sense.
think he gets the backing of the because United generally, yeah, they to me, and not a fan of. I'm not a fan, but like as an outsider from somebody who does just like observing,
Mhm.
it's like United seems to be in a win now state without winning anything, and I think that's very funny with with how the like the transfer policies and like what money is being spent on which players. It's like, why would you spend X number of on whatever when you could go buy three young players for the same price? Like you could go full football manager on it, like the amount of
Yeah,
revenue that they have, and not that football manager works in real life, although if you asked Will Still, he might
he
disagree.
will say that.
Um, but like I don't understand the. It seems like there's no clear like there hasn't been a clear, and Dortmund's the same. There's no clear kind
Direction.
of all the players that we're buying fit this style of play. So like even with Ronaldo, it's like if Ten Hag wants to press, and then they bring back Ronaldo, and he's like, I can't press with Ronaldo. It's like Ronaldo's 36. I like, what do you want me to do? You bring me in, you tell me to coach, now you give me this guy who's amazing, but like what now? What? So then it's like it feels strange. Like you guys are not setting yourselves up for success. And all
Yeah,
of the criticisms that I just said also apply to Dortmund. So
yeah.
it's not just it's a lot of clubs. I feel Chelsea, although Chelsea's kind of I don't know,
Chelsea's
but
different. They're
yeah,
different. They're a
yeah,
different story. Yeah. So I think that I think the reason they first of all not probably the best decision to fire Ten Hag in the middle of the season. But I think it got to a point where like it was kind of like the same old story because yeah, we won the FA Cup. But again, throughout you saw the first half of the season where it was just like this is the same, it's the same noise, like you've been saying this and that, but it's the same. And so although like I understand the mentality of firing, getting getting rid of him, I don't understand the decision to hire a coach like in the middle of the season. I think that we should have just, for me, I would have just stuck with Van Nistelrooy for the rest
yeah.
of the season. Someone who was like familiar with, obviously he's with Leicester now, but he was still familiar with the system and the players. Someone, the players can obviously trust because I think the bounce back from Ten Hag leaving was good. Like I think he won like three out of the four games that he managed, which is
Yeah,
great.
something like that.
Yeah. So I think you continue with him and then at the end of the year you bring in Amarim and let him kind of like implement his thing. But like you can't, regardless of what happens, you can't fire him now because literally he's already making an impact on the team. And if you fire him now, that doesn't, like delete the club. Um
Delete the club.
like so I think this summer it all depends on like kind of like obviously Anthony's doing really well. I saw that he got a red card today, by the way.
It was ridiculous. I saw the
Yeah,
video of the red
was
card.
it?
Did you
I
see
didn't
it?
see it. No, I didn't
Bro,
see it.
bro took a slip and slide from like 5 yards behind the guy, barely touched him, and then sending
Uh,
off. It's La Liga, bro. You know it's always.
Come on, man.
Bro
But
took a
yeah,
for real slip and slide. That shit was funny, man.
hold on. Oh, but yeah, like I think that Anthony, that's great that he's doing well. As much as it hurts, Rashford doing well is great because if they bring their cash value up, because obviously the past like 2 years, both of their stock has gone down. We're able to sell them. Obviously, I think Rashford is going to be gone in the summer. I think Anthony may be gone as well. You can sell those players to use that money to buy the resource or buy the players that you need. I also think they brought him in as well because they saw how much he did with less when he was at Sporting. He was able to build that in three. He was there for 4 years.
Hmm.
Sporting. So yeah, like I definitely think there's something there. I just think we need to, like he said, just give it. It's gonna take some time because again, he has to change the culture of the team, and then obviously there's different, tactical things that he's trying to introduce. That isn't something that you know is understood or best explained in the middle of the season when you have so many games during the week. Especially when he first got there. Like I think the first month there was literally a game, midweek game, weekend game, midweek game, and so essentially it's just recycling, like recovery and then playing cycle. There's no real
Yeah.
time between, you know what I mean? And you're playing some of the same players. I know in the beginning he kind of like rotated the squad a bit, but now he has it. There's a lot of injuries going on too, so that's even more like I think the last game yesterday they had like five academy kids on the bench. Like
Yeah.
it's getting thin. So like it's survival mode at this point. Obviously I don't see us getting relegated, but it's looking.
I don't
Oh man, don't
know.
say that, dude. Don't say
I
that.
don't
Don't
know.
say that.
Where's the
So
tape? How,
I think we're like
dude?
11 points. We're 11 points off of the relegation table.
Nah, you're 13 clear. You're good.
13, yeah, we're fine. So
Yeah, you're good.
yeah, so like we might honestly finish 15th.
I mean, you're in 15th now, and you're only ahead of West Ham on goal difference.
On go. Oh man, come on. Um but yeah, I think
And West
it's
Ham beat
all.
Arsenal, so
Yeah, that was a good game, by the way. Just watched it. I think that it all is going to come down to like the summer decisions and what they decide to do with the money that they're going to be bringing in, with this, with who, all the players that are going to be sold as well. I'm sure like Casemiro is going to be sold as well as also maybe Ericsson. Um,
yeah.
so we'll see what happens. I think at this point it's just kind of like, like I said, survival. So.
Let's go. I don't know. Let's go through some the squad and then be like, if you want to keep or sell them for
Okay.
funsies.
Sure.
We'll start from. We're not gonna go through everybody, but we'll go. We'll start from go. Onana. Do you keep? Do you like him?
I like him. He he has really good moments, but also his bad moments are really bad. And I think I go back to how people abuse De Gea, but like De Gea was like he was the reason that we had been successful in the past. And I don't think that he's a player that you just kind of like toss to the wind.
No.
Because at the end of the day, yes, you want to be like the new day and age, like you want a ball playing keeper, and like of course there's huge advantages to have those, but at the same time, like the point of a keeper is to save goals, and so like in the beginning he wasn't doing very well, and that obviously is like huge.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, I don't mind him. I like Bayern. He's a good keeper as well. So I know that there was that one back to back game where they both got scored on from a corner kick, and that was a bit like, what are you guys doing in Germany? It's like,
All
are you
right.
trying
So
to get scored on?
goalkeepers, you're good then.
Yeah,
Well, maybe you could upgrade, but you're fine.
yeah.
Center backs, you got Lindelof, Delict, Maguire, Martinez, who's injured again,
That was a big. That was a
and
big one.
yeah, Lenny Yoro, and Johnny Evans, and then I guess do you want to count Mesraoui and Luke Shaw as center backs in the back three,
Um,
or like?
I,
But anyways, like what? Who of them do you keep? Who do you get rid of?
so I honestly, I think I love Luke Shaw. I think he's done really well for the club, but I think he's at a point where like his injuries consistently are starting to become like a detriment to the club. Like, cause it's kind of like oh, Luke Shaw's back. And then literally like the next game he gets injured again. So I think for him, for his best like mental state, I think for him is just kind of like, cut his losses and move on. I still think that there's a player in him, of course, but he just needs to figure out like whether it's worth it to continue to go through that process because injuries can be tough and like not only obviously on the body but like mentally as well. I went through an injury myself and like it is tough. Like you go through a consistent battle in your head every single day when you're going through it. So I know I can only imagine what he's going through, but I think that he's a player that you kind of thank you for your service, but obviously moving forward I don't think he's someone you can really rely and count on because of his just track record of being injured.
Yeah.
I like Mazraoui a lot. um I think there's something there. I think he's someone you got to keep. Delit, I like him as well. I think that again it was kind of a red flag for me a little bit when he signed for was it Juventus first or
He
Bayern?
went from Ajax to Juve to Bayern
Yeah,
to
exactly. So
United.
if you see that, so like within like 2 years, he had already like bounced from those teams, and he's a young player. I think that was a little bit of a red flag. Like, why are these big teams releasing him when he's like supposed to be a like young and promising center back? And so,
I mean, they sold
um,
him for big money. It wasn't
yeah,
like they
same
just
for
got
big
rid of
money,
him.
yeah, but like still though, like that's a player that you keep. He's a young player, and if you see true promise in a young player like that, you keep him. And so that's what I'm saying. Like it happened. It happened not only once but twice. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's like there must be something that these other teams are seeing that may not be, he may not be as worth as much as his value says. But I think again, he's had some very good moments, and you know, I think that there is a player there. He just needs to build his confidence. Maguire. So Maguire, obviously, like his whole situation and like his last year. But like to be honest, like I was one of the biggest Maguire haters, but to see how he's kind of like taken that on and like he scored the game. Which game winner was it? It was like a few weeks ago. But like his trajectory and like seeing his mentality of how he was like the scapegoat of everyone, mistake after mistake, but like he still continued to like dig in and work and kind of like stay quiet and let his game do the talking. So like I have mad respect for Maguire now, and he's starting to become kind of like a mainstay in my squad if I had to put it on an 11.
Yeah.
So I like him a lot. I honestly think this system works for him better because like in a two back system, I think he doesn't have the physical attributes to be able to cover for other players or
Nah, he's too slow.
but yeah, but I think the center, I think his what made him so good, especially at Leicester, is he's a ball playing center back, and him playing in the middle, he's able to play passes kind of like Lissandro Martinez, where he's able to split defenses, and he has a good soccer IQ. So I like Maguire. I think he's someone we have to keep for sure.
Yeah.
Johnny Evans, of course, like thanks for your service, mate. But like
Yeah.
it's like he was kind of one of the Phil Jones of the squad right now. But like to be fair, like even last year he did come in and put a shift. Like I was like, oh, okay, Johnny Evans, like
Yeah.
but like again, like if you're trying to build a complete roster with like also a supporting cast of guys off the bench, like he's not one of them. And like,
Yeah.
he's definitely a squad player, but he's never making my 18. Um wait, who else do you say?
Lenny Yoro and Lindelof.
Lenny Okay, Lenny Euro, definitely something there. He has the physical attributes. He again another ball playing center back, which obviously it's something that Amram's trying to create, or that's the type of profile player he wants, and I think he is good. There's a few games that I saw that his like decision making or positioning off the ball was kind of like iffy, but he makes up with it with his athletic ability. So that's something that can just be taught.
And he's 19, so
And he's
that'll
19,
come.
exactly. So like 100% keep him. And then who else? The last one,
Lindelof.
Lindelof. Man, Lindelof is such a
Can I give my opinion real quick?
man.
Every time I've watched him play, I've not been like this guy's a world beater, but for me, he's solid enough to keep.
Yeah, he works really hard, and I think as a defender, that's that's the main thing you need is that you at least put in a shift and put your effort in. And he's not slow. He's not a slow
Yeah.
dude. Um,
It feels
but
like
yeah,
he doesn't do stupid things either.
yeah. He seems pretty solid, but not a center back that you're like, wow, this guy's great. But like someone you can bring off the bench and he's solid. You're not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
So yeah,
100%. The wing backs we kind of already talked about.
mm,
We didn't really mention Dallo, but I feel like that's kind of
man,
he's fine.
he's he hurt us, man. He got injured, and I think he has been obviously the best player for us this season. And that was a huge blow
Yeah.
because he
No,
definitely
sorry,
was a.
Diogo Dallo, not Ahmad.
Oh, Diego. Oh, I'm not sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's another player too, though. That was like he does some dumb stuff
Yeah,
sometimes, but then also he does some great. His work rate is huge. Is a lot. He has a good work rate.
yeah.
So again he's one of the players that wouldn't be in my starting lineup, but is one a guy that if I'm trying to protect a lead at the end of the game, I'll put him in just to get him to run.
How many of these, like, if you have a full transfer window, how many of these are you actually keeping? Like, if you could football manager it, like,
How many guys am I actually keeping?
yeah, like of the ones that we listed, like, I feel like it's just Delict and Martinez and maybe Mazraoui as well, and like Dorgu and Euro because they're young, but like,
Yeah, yeah, not keeping Shaw, not keeping I mean, if I had to let him go, if I'm bringing in more players, I mean I wouldn't. But the thing is with Diego Dallo, he's able to play both sides.
yeah,
Um,
no,
so that's
he's
very
one that you keep for sure, but
That's a
like,
yeah, that's a very versatile player that you
yeah,
can for sure. Obviously, Dorgu, we just signed him. There's no way we get rid of him.
yeah. Okay, midfielders. All the other defenders are like the young ones. You're not so deep into this that you've been watching like the U19 games, have you?
No, I haven't been watching. No, I
Yeah.
haven't been watching this.
We talked about Bruno already, Ericsson and Casemiro. We talked about.
Mm.
What do you think of Mount? You keep him? You see if there's something in there, or like, what do you
And
think about him?
that's another one too. Like he's out for the season, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
And he hasn't really, to be honest, like even when he was fit, like in the beginning of the season, he didn't really show much. But again, like it was because that was around the Ten Hag era, and I think that you give him an opportunity at least to see what he can do at that 10 position within Amarim's system. But for me, it's kind of still he still has some stuff to prove.
Yeah.
So I would he's definitely on the bench for me. If he was honestly, but if he was playing, I would put him over. I would put him over Hoyland. I would put Xerxes up there. Honestly, like I've had a complete switch between those players because Hoyland, I think his work rate masks how like not I don't particularly like how like his profile. Like he works hard, 100%, love that, but like he can't trap a ball. Like he can't every time I feel like somebody plays a ball to him, it bounces off him and it ends up in dispossession. Like he gets his
Mm,
dispossession easily. Um which honestly wasn't the case in the beginning. In the beginning, he was actually like sticking balls and like I don't know, maybe it's just like it's in his head or whatever.
it's
But
the
like
Ten Hag effect.
it's a Ten Hag effect. But recent performances have not been great. Xerxes was one that in the beginning I was like, who is this guy? He's been awful, and like obviously all that controversy when he like got subbed off and
Yeah.
everyone's like cheering, which is like awful. Like you don't want to see that. But like his response has been really good too because the last game he's definitely not he's not a forward. He's definitely a 10. I would put him at a 10 role. I think that obviously he's not the fastest, he's not the most athletic, but he has sticky feet. The ball stays on his foot, and he's starting. I think he's starting to become like we gave him time. He's starting to become more of
Yeah.
a player and kind of like more playing within himself. So I think he's gonna turn good. It's just gonna still take some time because he's young.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Ahmad and Garnacho we don't really
yeah.
need to talk about unless you are on
I
the like
mean,
some people were on like the sell Garnacho to Napoli train so we can get some money,
uh,
but
I think Garnacho again. I think he is for me. He's kind of raw, and what I mean by that is that like I think he's still kind of like understanding the game. You obviously see his like bicycle kick goal was like
yeah.
unreal, like one of the best goals I've seen on TV. But like he is like some of his decisions make, I don't think he like thinks. I think when he gets the ball, his main focus is he's trying to do the Cristiano Ronaldo of old and try to like take on three guys. Where like, hey, bro, like this is not the system. Like you
Yeah.
actually like understand spacing and moving. And so I've seen his development a little bit. So like I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But like in the beginning of the season, I was like, this is not, he wasn't impressing me at all. But
Yeah.
again, still young. He's still young, and there's still, again, like players need some time, and it is a very high level and a lot of pressure. So you understand that. You understand that as well, and everyone has their journey on that, under pressure and being able to, understand that. But I think there's a player in there as well for him. So I think
Um,
we keep him for sure.
have you seen enough of Toby Collier? He's the only youth player name that I
I
recognize.
Yes, I think that he's someone you keep as well. He has a good high work rate, and you can tell that he like I forgot what game was it, but like he understands the game and he plays it well. There's a few, I believe like there was a ball that he played. It was kind of like De Bruyne-esque where he like played Garnacho in between like it was like a 35-yard ball where he played it between two center backs to like to the winger. I think it was Garnacho playing on the left side, and I was like, that's a ball. Like those type of balls aren't just by chance. It's someone that you have to understand like spacing and like how you hit a ball to like make it curve around to through the center backs to to the
Yeah.
on run. That's not something that you just anyone can do. So there's definitely a player in there, and that's what I mean about the academy though, is that there are some good academy kids and guys who are have quality and will run their asses off for their team. So
Yeah, man.
I think he's one of those.
Jack Morehouse, I took in my Wrexham FM save, and he was all the way up to the championship with me. Signed him on a free. Um,
My
but
guy.
let's see. The last two notables, Ugarte and Kobe Mainu. Mainu, I assume keep, and then what do you think about Ugarte?
Ugarte, yeah, you
Keep.
keep both of them. Ugarte has been like in the beginning again. It's one of those things where he just needed to find his footing. I think he's been outstanding. That second goal yesterday was great. I think that yeah, he's kind of like he's our like workhorse in the middle. Like you have to have. He's starting to become a mainstay for me. Like he in a starting lineup, he has to be there.
You start
So,
him and Mainu as the two right now.
bro,
If everybody's
honestly,
healthy.
if everyone's healthy, I loved Kobe Manu in the 10 position. So I would start Bruno. I think Bruno plays better as an 8
Mm,
because he can play those passes. I think Manu is very good at kind of like the last third, finding little tricky passes. And although Bruno is he has the game IQ to do that, I think that Manu is he's able to do it at a higher rate, and also he's younger and he's more athletic. So I like Manu playing at a higher up the field than playing at it as an 8 because I mean what's that one game earlier this season where he literally just like dribbled through three guys and tucked it away like bottom right corner
yeah.
from side, like he has that. So I think that he's more of a threat closer to goal, and so I think Bruno's ability is kind of he can see the game very well, so he kind of like will ping a ball wide and then can kind of find himself coming on top of the box for those like long finishes at the box, and that playing in an 8 in a 3-4-3, that's more of a natural position for him.
Fair enough. Well, sir, it's been like an hour and a half.
As a rule.
Yeah, man. You got
Yeah.
any last nickels before we get you out of here?
Nah, man, it's been fun, and I appreciate you allowing me to come on the podcast and talk football with you. It's been fun, man.
Yeah,
Talk to you this again
100%.
sometime.
We should do it in the summer. I've got some other people that want to do like transfer kind of breakdown videos or whatever. So
Okay,
we should do it again for sure.
most definitely.
I think that's it.
All right, my
Do you have
man.
anything that you want to plug for people? Anything like small business stuff that you're doing or anything that you got going on?
No, not yet. I mean, a few things, but they're kind of like in the inner works. So,
All right, fair
in the
enough.
summer, and that they should be moving along better during the summer. So I'll plug it in then.
All right, sounds good. Well, I
All right, my
guess you'll
man.
have to come back and we'll do the whole thing. Um,
Definitely, man.
for those listening, thank you. We appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you want to watch another episode like this one, click there. If you want to subscribe, click there.